Good morning or good afternoon. This is Preston Jackson, Big County Preps. And the biggest reason we're throwing this podcast together is because there's still a lot of confusion about the new FHSAA Playoff System point system format. And we totally understand the confusion. This is brand new. And don't feel bad if you still haven't grasped the concept just yet, because plenty of people are still trying to figure this thing out. Selfishly, when you're a media member, you're on the outside looking in. You don't have a dog in the fight. You just want the best teams to make the playoffs. This is perfect for us. There will be a lot of drama involved. There will be a lot of dynamic changes that will happen throughout the year with the point system. So each week, as the points are updated, teams can slide within, I guess, for lack of a better term, their playoff positioning for that week. Nothing will be set in stone until the final games of the regular season have concluded. And for teams, for players, for coaches, for parents, that can be very nerve-wracking. For people like myself, we kind of love the drama about it because we don't have a dog in the fight. We want to kind of see this whole thing evolve and unfold to see who actually makes the playoffs. So, here we go. The concept of the new playoff point system was to reward teams for playing stiff competition. If you play stiffer competition and you're one of the better teams, ultimately the math and the point system, in theory, is designed to promote you to the playoffs. What was happening was we were getting district champions and or district runner-ups who weren't very good teams, who were coming from weaker districts, weaker regions. They were entering the playoffs with maybe 3 wins or even 2 wins. All they had to do was beat 2 district opponents, and they were in the playoffs. And then they get molly-whopped as soon as they get into the playoffs. So what the FHSAA decided to do, they did some homework on some other states and how they conducted their playoffs. And some of the states that they did the homework on had a lot of success with their state championship series. And that's kind of what the FHSAA modeled this year's playoff format by. Now, here's how this kind of works. For small schools, there are no more districts, okay? Districts do not apply with the small school seating. For playoff purposes, the districts have now expanded to large regions for classes 1A through 4A. And now let me give you an example. If we just throw out the 2A region, I'm just going to throw out the 2A region, okay? The teams that we have locally within the 2A classification are Carrollwood Day, Sefner Christian, Keswick, Admiral Farragut, Northside Christian, Indian Rocks, and Cambridge Christian. Those teams are within the 2A classification. Now, each classification, 1A through 8A, are broken down into 4 regions. But let's stay in the small classification, 4A on down. No more districts. Now they are just regions. So now within 2A, you have regions 1 through 4. Those schools that I named, Cambridge, Carrollwood Day, those schools are within region 3. So, in order to make the playoffs, is a small school in 2A, you are competing against everybody in region 3. Not just your district as in previous years. So Cambridge is not only competing against Carrollwood Day and Sefner Christian, who are in the Tampa Bay area for a playoff spot. They are also competing against Evangelical Christian, who's out of Fort Myers, Southwest Florida Christian Academy, who is out of Fort Myers, along with Indian Rocks in Largo, Northside Christian in St. Pete. Okay, They are all, if you want to call them districts, you can, but I would not. Don't get yourself confused. They are all competing within Region 3 for a playoff spot. Okay? Now, let's stay at the small school. The difference between small school and large school is that the large school classifications, the district champion in each the district champion within the regions automatically get into the playoffs. That is not the case for the small school classifications. The top 4 schools in each region, according to the point system, will make the playoffs. So you'll get 4 teams in Region 3. Let's start out for Region 1, Region 2. That's going to give you 8 in the north, and you'll get Region 3 and Region 4. That gives you another 8 in the south. So in total, your small school classifications, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, you'll get 16 teams that will compete across the state. 16 total spots within each classification. So we're now talking about 2A. So within 2A, you'll get 16 teams. And again, each region gets 4. And the only thing that matters is your points which you accumulate for the new playoff system. Now I know that's where everybody's confused, and I'm gonna go over how the points are accumulated also. But I just wanted to tell you how the breakdown is. Now, let's go to your large classifications. Okay, I'm just gonna go. I guess I'll pick. Let's go 6A. We've got a lot of 6A schools in the area. Okay, so now your large classification schools are 5A on up. 5A, 6A, 7A, 8A. Remember I said what the large classifications, the districts kind of matter, but in the big picture they don't. The most important thing that you need to remember about the district is that the district champions get an automatic bid to the playoffs. Automatically they are in. Now, remember, each region contains 4 districts, okay? And there are also 4 regions within that classification. So the breakdown is your classification, and then you get your regions, and then are your districts, okay? So for example, Region 1, 6A Region 1 has District 1, District 2, District 3, District 4. Of those 4 districts, 4 teams will automatically make the playoffs. The district champ from District 1, the district champ from District 2, 3, and 4 automatically get in. That's for that region. Now, staying in that region, you only have 4 more slots available. You get 32 teams in the large classifications for the playoffs. So each region gets 8. Divide that 8 by 4. Subtract 4 from that 8, which are taken up by your district champions. You only get 4 spots remaining for that region. So let's give another example to some schools and some regions that apply to our area. I'm going to go and I'm going to look in Region 2. Okay? So we'll take Region 2. Within Region 2, we have our 4 districts that apply. District 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, most of our schools within Region 2 will be in District 6, District 7, and District 8. Here you go. Now, here's the kicker. Each team, Arnwood, Blake, Brandon, Chamberlain, Hillsborough, King, that's District 7. But for real, it doesn't matter because every one of those teams I just named is competing against 20 other schools within the region for 8 playoff spots. Now, if we just say, let's assume Arnwood wins District 7. I'll toss out another one. Let's say Lake Gibson, or let's say Lake Gibson wins District 8. and then we'll say Mitchell wins District 6, and then Vanguard and Ocala wins District 5. That's 4 spots taken up already for the region. Already 4 spots gone. You only get 8. So you get 4 remaining. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Matter of fact, I think we already have the math. I'm counting this. I apologize. Let me go to Classification 6, Region 2. We've got 22 total schools in Region 2. 22 total schools in Region 2. You subtract out the 4 district champions. You only get 4 spots left. So now you have 18 teams competing against each other for 4 playoff spots. That is huge. It is huge. There's no more district runner-up. It doesn't matter. There's only a district champion. That's the only thing that matters. And every school, all 22 schools, are competing against each other for 8 playoff spots per region. 8 classifications. Let's just say large school. 4 large school classifications, class 5, 6, 7, 8. We break those down. Each have 4 regions. Break that down even more. Have 4 districts. You only get 4 guaranteed spots per region, leaving 4 wild card spots to be filled in amongst 20 plus teams per region. It's not a lot of space. So now, weekly, the FHSAA comes out with their update for the points and how each team gets their points. And I think that's the biggest place viewers and spectators are confused with, because they're not necessarily sure how the teams are earning these points and why they have so little or so few. Now, on our website, we provided the links to each classification that you can see your schools plus every other school within the classification. Then we also add a link that breaks down the regions. Now, it's a little work, but if you take your regions, you write down the teams within your regions, so now you know who you're comparing against, who you're comparing points against each week to see where you fall. All right, so let's go to the point system itself. The point system itself is broken down into 4 categories. However, before we start that, there are a few qualifiers. Number 1, every team, in order to be eligible to make the playoffs, you have to have played at least 8 regular season games. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, in order to get, number 2 is only regular season opponents would be taken into account for your points. So you don't get any spring game points, you don't get any preseason classic points. Only thing that matters are your regular season teams. There's some other stuff in there, but it's not important. And we don't have time to go over all, but those are 2 major ones. That's why it was so important when all these games were getting canceled that these games were made up, because the points that they have to get plus the games they have to play in order to be qualifiers for the playoffs. So let's go to our categories. Category 1 through 4. It's pretty simple once you kind of get the concept. A category 1 team means that team has won, in this case, is winning more than 80% of their games. The largest amount of points that you acquire from the largest amount of points that you earn from the playoffs is with a category 1 team. A category 1 team, if you defeat a category 1 team, you get 50 points. If you lose to a category 1 team, you get 30 points. Okay? That is in stark contrast to a category 4 team. If you beat a category 4 team, you get 35 points. If you lose to a category 4 team, you get 15 points. So you can see they're rewarding teams for playing better teams. Category 1, your opponent must be winning or has won more than 80% of their games. Okay? So you're usually looking at around an 8-2 team, a 10-0 team, a 9-1 team, 8-1, 9-0. Your opponents who have records like that, that's a more than 80% of their wins. You're going to get 50 points if you win, 30 if you lose. Category 2, slight drop off. Category 2, your opponent has had won at least 60% of their games, but no more than 79%. As you see, it's right under 80. Okay, so category 2, you're going to get 45 points for the win, 25 points for a loss. Category 3, 40% of their games, at least 40% of their games. You got between 40% and 59%. A win gives you 40 points. A loss gets you 20 points. Category 4 team, you play a Category 4 team, that means they've won less than 39% of their games. That's not a very good team. So you don't want a bunch of Category 4 teams on your schedule because you don't get many points for winning them or losing to them. You only get 35 points for a Category 4 win and 15 points for a Category 4 loss. In addition to, you also are awarded playoff points for teams that participated in the playoffs either of the last 2 years. So if you have a team on your schedule that was in the playoffs 2015 or 2016, you get 3 bonus points off the top before you even started playing games that year for that team. So for example, Arnwood and Tampa Bay Tech. Before Tampa Bay Tech and Arnwood played, each of those teams had 3 points on the board on their playoff points for each other because they both played in the playoffs last year. So at the very least, they're going to get 3 points added on to whether or not they were 50-point win or a 30-point loss. So let's get into a few examples of what you guys are looking at for the point system, so I can kind of break it down a little bit so you know what you're looking at. All right. All right. So, as we said before, FHSAA comes out weekly. Tuesdays around noon, they drop the updated point system. Also, let me reiterate, in a Category 1, 2, or 3 team, those teams can fluctuate. Just because, let's just throw out Gaither, all right? I'll throw out Gaither right now only because I'm looking at a picture of a Gaither player. Throw out Gaither. Gaither could be a Category 2 team today with their 4-2 record, okay? But if they keep winning, they move up in category to a Category 1 team. So now teams that would have played Gaither, they no longer get Category 2 points. That's even better. They now get Category 1 points, okay? And vice versa if Gaither gets worse as a season. If they are starting Category 2 and now they're losing, Gaither now becomes a Category 3 or Category 4 team. Those points also get deducted from their opponents. All right, so here we go. Since we started off with a 6A example, I'll stay in 6A. And let's just use Arnwood's undefeated. I want to use Tampa Bay Tech because they've got a lot of points. And then we'll do one other example, but let's stay with Tampa Bay Tech going down. All right, so Tampa Bay Tech is 7A. Let me go to 7A. I was in 6A. Apologize. All right, so Tampa Bay Tech, pulling up from the FHSAA website. I'm scrolling down. We can use Wiregrass Ranch also. So let's look at Tampa Bay Tech. They played a pretty competitive schedule, I believe. Not too competitive. But they got a lot of different categories, which is good. So you got the Tampa Bay Tech schedule. Week 1, their Week 1 opponent was Arnwood. Arnwood right now today is 5-0, which makes them a Category 1 team. Okay? So for a Category 1 team, Tampa Bay Tech either gets 50 points or 40 points for the loss. Let me double check, make sure I'm telling you the right thing. 30 points, sorry about that. Tampa Bay Tech either gets 50, Tampa Bay Tech would have earned 50 points if they would have defeated Arnwood, because Arnwood A, they're a Category 1 team, which means they won at least 80%. So they'll get, Tampa Bay Tech would have got 50 points for a win versus Arnwood, plus the 3 bonus points that they get because Arnwood was a playoff team last year and or 2015. Now, Tampa Bay Tech lost to Arnwood, which is a Category 1 team. So, instead of the 53 points they would have earned for a win, they received 33 points. 30 points for the loss to a Category 1 team, 3 points for the bonus. So that's 33 points to start the season. All right? They went ahead and beat Strawberry Crest, who is a Category 4 team. They only got 35 points for the Category 4 team. Then they beat Hillsboro, which is currently a Category 2 team. They earned a big 48 points for a Category 2 team. Then they defeated Leonard, who is a Category 4 team. 35 points for that win. And then they defeated East Bay, who is currently a Category 4 team. So they received 35 points. So in red, you'll see 37.20 for Tampa Bay Tech. That is the number that means the most. That number comes from the total number of points, which Tampa Bay Tech has earned 186 points. Tampa Bay Tech earned 186 points divided by the number of games which they have played, and that gives you 37.20. That red number is what needs to be paid the most attention, because now Tampa Bay Tech's red number is what they are using to side them against all the rest of the 18, 19, 20 teams within their region. The district really doesn't matter. It's great. If they win the district, they're automatically in. But for real, big picture for every other team is they're competing against every other team within that region. Not 5 teams in your district, not 6 teams in your district. You're competing against 18, 19, 20 other teams within your region. Now, let's stay with Tampa Bay Tech. Remember how I said points can fluctuate. So just because, and I'll use let's use East Bay, okay? East Bay is one of the teams that they defeated that definitely has a chance to move up in categories, okay? So right now, East Bay on Tampa Bay Tech's schedule has earned them 35 points. If East Bay wins, let's just say East Bay wins out, and their season record ends, I don't know, let's just say they end up at 6-4 or 6-3. Let's say 6-3. East Bay ends up at 6-3. They go from a Category 4 team on Tampa Bay Tech's point earnings to now a Category 2 team on Tampa Bay Tech's earnings. So Tampa Bay Tech, instead of 35 points for that East Bay win, at the end of the season, that 35 points would have moved up to a 45 points for an East Bay win. So big picture means before you play a team, you want them to be good. While you're playing that team, you want them to be bad. After you've defeated that team, you want them to do good, because you need them to be successful to up your points, because the more successful the teams are you're playing as the season progresses, the more points you earn. Now, the other part, hopefully I explained that with some clarity. It's a lot to it, a lot thrown at you, but it all comes down to mathematics. There is a formula in place. The categories are most important. once you see the points that you get for defeating these teams, you now know what you can expect. So, let's just stay on Tampa Bay Tech. Let me pull Tampa Bay Tech schedule back up. Tampa Bay Tech schedule back up. Pull back Tech. All right. So, Tampa Bay Tech has Bloomingdale coming up right now. Right now, today, Tampa Bay Tech, Bloomingdale is a Category 2 team. Category 2 team. So, if Tampa Bay Tech fans can expect, if you beat Bloomingdale, you're going to end up with 45 points for defeating Bloomingdale because they're a Category 2 team today. So you win on Friday, you can say, okay, great. I can expect to get these 45 points because they're a Category 2 team. Drop down another week. Durant is 5-1. All right. So they'll also be if they win this week, they'll still be a Category 1 team. Those are big points for Tampa Bay Tech if they defeat Durant, because they get those 3 bonus points because Durant was in the playoffs last year, plus 50 points because Durant is a Category 1 team. Remember, you get 50 points for defeating a Category 1 team. Big points, that's 53 points in a win for Tech if they defeat Durant. All right? If they defeat Durant. Now, here's the other side of that is try not to lose my train of thought. Everybody's final point total will be highly important. But when the points drop on Tuesdays, the most important is to see that red number. So now, for Tampa Bay Tech fans, we'll just stay on Tech because it's the only team we're using right now for this example. You will go to 7A. When you look at 7A, you want to look at Region 3. So within Region 3, Tampa Bay Tech is competing against 20 other teams. There are 20 teams total in Region 3 for 7A. Okay? So yeah, you'll say, yeah, okay, well, we know Durant and we know East Bay, but also Tampa Bay Tech for playoff spots is competing against Venice. They're competing against Palmetto. They're competing against Braden River. So now let's advance a little bit. Let's talk about where the point systems will place you. The 4 district champions will be placed at the top 4 for the 8 teams that make the playoffs in that region. So you can kind of break it up in 2. You can kind of say, okay, here go my wild cards on the right, and then here go my district champs on the left. District champs automatically get 1 through 4 ranking for that playoff bracket of 8 teams, depending on the point total. So if we assume Tampa Bay Tech wins their district, we assume maybe Pinellas Park wins their district. We assume Venice wins their district, and then we assume South Fort Myers wins their district. Those 4 teams will be ranked 1 through 4, depending on who has the most points. So if Tampa Bay Tech ends their season with 44.4 points, and then Braden River falls behind with 42.3, Tampa Bay Tech gets the first seed. Braden Rivers gets the 2nd seed. On with the next district champ, and the last district champ gets the 4th seed. Now after that, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th spot will be seeded the same way. As the district champs, except they get spots 5 through 8, depending on who has the most to the least points. Okay? So in theory, the best team within that region, which we're assuming, let's just for example purposes, will be Tampa Bay Tech will end up playing the quote unquote worst playoff team within that 8, which will be the 8th seed. So it is designed that we get the best teams in the playoffs. This is saying that your record does not necessarily reflect if you are the worst or bad team, because you could be a Booker T. Washington down south who entered the playoffs last season at a 5-5 record. They were 5-5, but their five losses last year came to playoff teams and or state champions. So yeah, they could be 5-5 entering the playoffs, and we could have a team here who is 9-1, 10-0. But the way this playoff system works out is that okay, this 5-5 team is probably better than your 9-1, 10-0 team. Or don't say that this 5-5 team is not very good, because you have to see who they lost to. In this example, Booker T. Washington ended up going 5-5, and then they ran off 5 straight wins in the playoffs, and or 4 straight wins in the playoffs, and won the state championship after ending the season at 5-5. So the records, as people always say, who have they played? Yeah, they're 10-0, but who have they played? Yeah, they're 5-5, but look at their 5 losses. They lost against some stud teams. So this mathematics, in theory, should level the playing field to be able to get the best teams on the field in the playoffs. And I want to say no matter the record, but yeah, the records do matter. But we want to get the best teams to compete in the playoffs. Okay. Whew. So I know that was kind of a lot. It was a lot for me. I know reading it is one thing. Having somebody kind of explain it to you is another thing. There could still be some folks who may not grasp it after listening to this. Don't call yourself names. Maybe I missed a step someplace. I apologize, but I just know there are a lot of people who are still confused, and we're trying to give a breakdown. If I could say anything, is that you need to pay attention to 3 things. Know all 18, 19, 20 teams within your region. Screw the district, because the most teams ain't going to win the district. Okay? Screw the district, because small teams, small classifications, and large classifications are competing against the same teams. All the teams in the region. So you need to know who's in your region. You need to know that you need to know where to look on the playoff earning sheet when it comes out weekly. You need to know that red number. That red number, you're gonna compare that to everybody else's red number in the region. The higher number, the current higher number, the better position you are for the playoffs. And you want to know the top 8. Where does your number compare to the top? Where does your number compare to the top 8? In the large classifications, you may have to see who the district champions could be, because once that happens, those 4 are out the door, and now you only get 4 left over from those who are left over. So again, it is the region you are competing against, not so much the district. Okay, I guess that would be my biggest emphasis. The district champion, yes, they get an automatic bid, but once that district championship is gone, it's everybody else in the region. All right, so see that red number, know the teams in your district, know the teams in your region, and understand that as the season progresses, the numbers will fluctuate for the teams that you have played. And when the number fluctuates, your spot can fluctuate. So a category 1 team can end up a category 2 team. A category 4 team can end up a category 3 team. You want to have category 1 and 2 teams on your schedule. Those are the categories that will earn you the most points and get you a better chance to being towards the top of the playoff earning point breakdown. Whew! I think that's it. Have a good day.